Hey, and welcome to another episode of, late night. Essentially, this is not going to be a usual late night. We just we're going to do a series review of What If because the final episode aired last week. But with me, I've got over here got Aaron. Aaron, how's it going?
Awesome. Thank you for having me back. I can't remember how long ago it was. It was like a month or two ago. I was with you guys when we did the animated character bracket, and that was a lot of fun. So I'm glad to be back again on the show.
Also we've got Jake. Jake, how's it going?
I'm swell. Thanks for having.
Um, but with how we're going to go through each episode, talk about each episode sort of on its own, just with the style of the show, because it's just one of those ones that it's really hard to talk about overall because it's really not that connected, pretty much. Um, but yeah, we're going to start off with what if Captain Carter was the first Avenger? And I'm gonna, Aaron, I'll go to you first on this. What did you think about the first episode?
Um, so the first episode of What If, the Captain Carter episode. I was not a big fan of this episode. Um, it's something that I have a reoccurring thought of throughout the series, but it's like, in my opinion, when I was thinking about What If as like a show concept, my thought was, oh, okay, they'll make these interesting changes that like make sense to the story, and we'll get to see what that variation would do. And for the most part, the show either did things that were way too close to the original films, or they were changes that made no sense in terms of story. Like, it was just, we're changing this one random thing to change the universe up. Captain Carter was an example of something that's way too close to the movie. This was essentially almost a shot for shot, sped up remake of the first Avenger, which is a movie I think is okay. And so this episode, to me, it wasn't a great start. I think in terms of, like, because the whole Captain Carter, like, female Captain America thing, I know is like, iconography wise, is pretty associated as a what if story. So I got why it was put first, but I just wasn't a fan of the episode because I just thought they could have done more with it.
And just joining us, we got Doug. Doug, how's it going?
Hey everybody, how's everybody doing?
Good.
Good, good.
Pretty good.
But I just said we're talking about the first episode at the moment. But Jake, what were your thoughts on what if Captain Carter was the first Avenger?
Yeah, this one did end up near the bottom of the barrel for me. I enjoyed it. I had a great time, but I echo Aaron's sentiments on that. It was just the first Avenger again, and we didn't get like quite a ton of anything else. So, good episode. I had fun with it, but ended up probably my either my least favorite or second least favorite.
Yeah. And Doug, what were your thoughts on what if Captain Carter was the first Avenger?
I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. I mean, there's not many that I didn't like in the series. Overall, I think they were all great. I think they're all their own iterations, and I think it's a great way to kick it off because it gets people comfortable with the idea without having to hit them with a real shocker with the first one or anything like that. Getting somebody comfortable is the biggest thing that they had to do with the series.
Yeah, yeah, I also really did like this, even though it was as Aaron said, essentially a speed up version of the first Avenger with some minor changes. But ultimately, I didn't hate it for doing that, and we're definitely going to be seeing more of Captain Carter, and we'll get to that when we get to the final episode. But I mean, yeah, this is the first one, and I think it is one because I think you do when you do a show like this when you're changing a lot of stuff. You don't really want to start off with balls to the wall crazy changes as we're about to get into the next episode. Off the bat, but yeah, but with that lead up, the next second episode we got was what if T'Challa became Star Lord? And Jake, what were your thoughts on episode 2? And you muted, by the way.
Hey, how we doing? So conversely, this one was my favorite of the bunch. I had a blast with it. It was so cool to get Chadwick back. Rest in peace, obviously. So that was awesome. I had a great time with. Oh man, look at all these awesome things that T'Challa did that Peter Quill wouldn't do at all. Because T'Challa is still a prince. He is still honorable, and Peter Quill is still kind of just a Peter Quill. Not that he's not a hero, but he's definitely less heroic than T'Challa, and we get to see that. Voice cast was fantastic. The whole Thanos thing was just like all of a sudden you see his big purple arm come down. You're like, "Go step!" And it's like, no, T'Challa talked me out of it, but I still think yeah. I just loved this episode, man. It was awesome.
And Doug, what were your thoughts on what if T'Challa became Star Lord?
Basically, what if one of the smartest, cunning superheroes became a space pirate? I'm cool with it. It was an interesting take on what T'Challa would do if given the reins to know of the universe outside of just the regular world. What would he do? And I think they played it really, really eloquent. And especially because we didn't know what was going to happen with Chadwick, and I think it's almost a great send off. And it's just something that I really enjoyed this episode. It's not my favorite, but I really enjoyed this for what it was and what they gave us.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this is one of the episodes that I really wish these what if episodes were a little bit longer, because I would have loved to see how he managed to convince Thanos. There's maybe a small thing, but and this is one that there was some news that came out from interviews with the writers that this was actually one they were planning on doing a spin-off series all about down the line. Whether or not it's still going to happen, I don't know, because it's one of those ones. It's going to be weird with someone else voicing MCU T'Challa, if they do it, but I really do hope we get to revisit these again. But it's also one of those ones that's going to be a little bit bittersweet if we get to revisit it again, but without Chadwick's voice. But Aaron, what were your thoughts on what if T'Challa became Star Lord?
Yeah, I love this episode. There were 2 episodes in the show to me that were, at least to me, just the standout best ones, and this was one of them. I thought it made full use of its premise, the basic idea of like, what if the Ravagers fucked up the job and took the wrong kid? And this kid just so happens to be someone who is completely pure in nature, and how would that affect the universe? And it's cool to see like this far-reaching thing of he can turn Thanos into a good guy. He can take a warrior like Korag and make him a fanboy. He can do all these weird things because he's such that pure person. I do think it's like a tribute episode, because this was obviously the one that had the, rest in peace to Chadwick at the end. I think it's a great episode because it shines that character in the best possible light. And I do like what it did to all the characters. I mean, quite honestly, the biggest weakness of this episode was Nebula's weird ass blonde hair. Like, why? But other than that, no, I love this episode. It's great.
I mean, the only thing I could sort of think about with Nebula's with blonde hair in there is that Thanos never really did all the inventions, modifications and stuff as punishments. And that's all I can think about, whether or not. But it's one of those ones. Like, there's always going to be weird things in every episode. That's like, how did that?
Also, can I just say, the more I get of Seth Green as Howard the Duck, I really want
Please,
him to have a bigger role.
Yes.
Can we get
So
an
much.
actual Howard the Duck movie like that's actually good?
Dude, like every time he shows, and he's in the show twice, but every time he shows up, I hear a little bit more from him. I'm like, man, he really suits this character. He has this nail.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's one of those. We didn't get a lot of Howard Duck in this one. We will get to more of Howard later because.
I just want to see a marriage sitcom. That's really what I want to see.
Yes. We had that with Howard the Duck in '87.
Leah Thompson did say she wanted to write the Howard the Duck flick whenever it does come out, so I'm down with it.
Okay. Nope.
But with that, the next episode we've got is what if the world lost its mightiest heroes? And I'm going to start with Doug on this one. Doug, what were your thoughts on this?
Oh, so we got Hank Pym. That's actual Hank Pym. Cool. I like this version. Can we get more evil Hank Pym? I'm just saying because like that's comic accurate. No, I actually, it shows you what would happen to a man who loses everything, and hope was actually his hope. You know, it's kind of cool. I think it's an interesting episode. This isn't my favorite episode. This is probably my least favorite episode in the series. But it was good overall. It wasn't what I wanted. Like I was like, oh, we're going with this route. All right, cool.
Yeah, I mean, this is one that it's for me. It's definitely in the middle of the pack. I mean, it was it was fine. I mean, it's murder mystery type thing and all this, and just seeing like, and I think this was the first thing to show that they're not always going to take one movie and change it up. They're not afraid to change up multiple movies in one episode because essentially we got like all the origin stories in this. Where like you had Iron Man, you had Thor, you had Hulk. Which I will add, it was so nice revisiting that Hulk universe, even though it was a little bit jarring seeing Mark Ruffalo's Hulk when he did not look anything like Edward Norton.
All that.
But
although it was a cool ass way for Hulk to die, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
it was.
And I mean, it was at the point of that when Hulk died, I was like, hang on, is this going to be Ant-Man killing everyone? Because all these coincidences are so weird. There's like there can only be one choice, and just seeing the crazy looking Hank Pym just so. Because this is one that I've actually really loved the animation style in more than anything. Yeah, and as Garth said, Hulk exploded.
You did.
But Aaron, what are your thoughts on what if the world lost its mighty Avengers?
So this one for me, again, kind of like what you said, is for me it's more of a middle of the road episode. I love all the setup for it. Like I love the whole idea of like a whodunit in the MCU, but the whodunit is who is just straight up murdering Avengers like it's a Tuesday afternoon. It's so easy for him. And I do love getting to see Hank Pym deranged like that, because I do think that the films have never quite gone into it, but there is that very clear idea of like, this guy's not completely on the rocks. Like he definitely could go off an edge and go really south. My thing with this one, and maybe it is a bit of a nitpick or it's a matter of perception, is my belief behind the whole thing is the changes that you're making should make some semblance of sense when it connects to the larger universe. And so that's why the twist kind of was the thing that threw me off. And again, I've come to accept that that's just how they're handling the show. But the twist in it is Hank Pym becomes the bad guy because he loses hope. But the way he loses hope is that she joined S.H.I.E.L.D. and died on the field as a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. in the actual films, there was never any indication that her joining S.H.I.E.L.D. was an option. So it seems like a very arbitrary thing that she would just join S.H.I.E.L.D. in a universe to then die for S.H.I.E.L.D. to send him down this road. And that's just the thing that put me in like a place of like, okay, I don't love this as much as I could have. Because I absolutely think with the Hank Pym character, there are plenty of other ways you could have handled that, even if it is killing Hope, that didn't involve a change that's so off the wall and out of the normal for the movies.
Like you coulda-
Yeah, like it just, to me, that was really weird when it's like, oh, she was a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent and like a field agent too. That's really weird. There's nothing that indicates she would have done that in the films ever. But all right, that's what they ran with.
Yeah, yeah, I'm just trying to remember. And Gav might be able to correct me on this.
Oh,
But
please, if
because
somebody knows more than me, go ahead.
because I think there was a line about, because I think the part where Hope died was where the Winter Soldier initially murdered came around, and I think Natasha was supposed to be on that mission. So for whatever reason, Natasha didn't go on, and Hope was, I don't know. There's
I mean, I
but
think they could have structured it a little better. I agree with Aaron. I think they could have.
Yeah.
They could have maybe kept Janet alive, or she didn't actually die, or she didn't die on that mission, and that would have been the Shield kind of like integration. You know.
Yeah.
A few things.
Or
but
just
yeah,
send him off the edge. They establish in Ant-Man that he already hates the Avengers and S.H.I.E.L.D. without needing an extra motivation. Maybe in this world, he just decided ahead of time, I'm going to go a step further.
but yeah,
I'm gonna murder some people.
But Jake,
fun.
what were your thoughts on What If the World Lost Its Mighty Avengers?
This is another one that's at the bottom for me. That's alongside Captain Carter, and I love all of them because I'm very easy. I'm just a fanboy, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. But yeah, this one really fun times. Obviously, all the Avengers dying. Who needs those guys? Good episode. You guys have all pretty much hit on everything, like the Ed Norton-esque animation Hulk with the Ruffalo voices, a little weird but cool. And then, as was mentioned, Hulk exploded. That happened. But yeah, it was kind of like a weird what if, I guess.
Yeah,
It really puts into perspective just how little Mark Ruffalo and Ed Norton are alike than seeing him reenact scenes that Ed Norton would have done previously. Like more than ever, it's like, wow, they really didn't try to make these the same person.
Oh, I mean, there's another moment later on with a different episode where I'll get to, which is essentially the same kind of thing. But yeah, the next one we're going to talk about. Oh yeah, but the one thing I did like about What If the World Lost Its Mighty Avengers, it gave Nick Fury a reason to use Captain Marvel's beeper earlier in the MCU.
Yeah.
But yeah, the next episode we've got is What If Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands? And I'll kick this off. For me, I can't. This is probably one of the ones that is near the bottom for me.
Whoa.
I mean, I like. But when it comes to most of the MCU, I like all these episodes. Like, none of these I really hate, but this is just one that is just the repetitive. I mean, well, yes, I know Doctor Strange does time loops all the time, and like the amount I've come to bargain and all that. I get that. The whole time loop aspect on this, with him trying to find different ways to save I can't remember the name of the Christine. Yeah, it just got a little repetitive and just dragged on a little bit. While yeah, I do like the whole ending where this is the one universe where he essentially erases the universe, is just sitting in this little wee pyramid thing, being tormented by the Watcher. Until needed, but yeah. This I thought it was fine. This one wasn't anything special for me. Aaron, what were your thoughts on what if Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands?
So I will say, and again, if this is one where somebody can correct me and make this make a little more sense, I'm happy to hear it. The next one, the start of the episode, I was a little weirdly off put by it because again, it's another like very weird arbitrary change. In this one, it seems like she just kind of got in the car with him for whatever random reason this time because like nothing else has changed. He still does the surgery successfully. He's still kind of a prick. He's still not practicing safe driving. It's just this time she happens to be here. So she dies instead of his hands. But other than that one thing being a really weird set off, I really did love the rest of the episode. I think in terms of like voice acting for Benedict Cumberbatch, I thought he did a great job. It's a really great exploration of the darker angle of this character. But aside from the opening, I think the biggest shame of this episode is for the second time in a row, the MCU has taken Rachel McAdams and just absolutely wasted her, which is a shame because I really think she could give a good performance or a great performance if they gave that character more to do. But yeah, aside from the setup of just, again, this is all very arbitrary. In this universe, she gets in the car because this time she decided to go with him in the same car. Was a little weird, but I thought the execution of the episode is some of the best that the series did. So it's not my favorite for that small reason, but I do think it's great writing and it's great acting. And I mean, it's a great, I know it's an adaptation of a book as well, like an H.G. Wells or one of those, but it's a great story like that. It really is a dark story done well in the MCU.
But Jake, what are your thoughts on what if Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands?
Yeah, this is another top episode for me. I do agree that it got a little repetitive with the constant and whatnot, but that was good by me. And then the back half of the episode with the adventuring and the taking out the demons and the Kraken or whatever it's called. That was just sick. And then at the end of the episode, you are just left feeling like, holy fuck, what happened? I don't know if I'm allowed to say fuck here. Sorry. Anyway, but yeah, it was just like I was left with just this feeling, this empty, like, wait, did that happen? And I know it's what if, and I know that's what we're exploring, but it still hit. So this is definitely a top episode for me.
And Doug, what are your thoughts on what if?
All right, everybody ready to put their tinfoil hats on? Ready? I introduced Mephisto. This is their Mephisto. This is who we are seeing in the new Spider-Man movie. If you look, it's exactly how they like literally put them side by side. The same facial expressions, the same depthness into his eyes. It's everything. I think this is how they create it. I think they are, because look, they're already introducing shows into the movies. We already see it happening. And I think this is a great way to do it. We already know that Owato is interjecting into the world, so maybe this Doctor Strange figured out how to get his, I guess, tentacles into a different universe, if you will. But to talk about the episode, I think it's actually great. I think it plays on a lot of what would happen because they were together the entire time. This wasn't just them breaking up. They were together the entire time. So she was his heart. The reason that she was there for that whole thing was because she was there to support him. He didn't break up with her like he did in the movie. You know, before him, they weren't college sweethearts. They broke up and they were coworkers. No, they were together the entire time. So I think if you're together and you build a relationship that much, you're going to fight to keep that together, no matter how tedious it may get. I think it's an incredible episode. This is like my 3. I'm right with Garth. It'd be my number 2, but I think there's 2 that are super good that are my favorite. But I think this is incredible, and I think it shows us what they're going to do because they don't want to bring in Mephisto because he's the devil. And I don't think they're ready to touch that line yet. I don't think they're ready to do that line yet, but they're trying to.
China won't let them.
No, China will not. But I think this is a great way to introduce people to get ready to used to kind of seeing this character. Marvel's always about let's let people into it, let's give them a glimpse, and if they like it, that's the way we're going to go with it.
Yeah, and I mean, there's definitely a lot of these episodes and what if they kind of felt like they definitely could be used as background pilots for their own show if they would look if they want to go that way. But the next episode we have is just simply what if zombies. um, nice short title. But Jake, what are your thoughts on what if zombies?
All right, so we all knew this one was coming from the trailer, and as soon as I saw that trailer, I'm like, dear God, I just hope they call that episode "What If Zombies." And then when it happened, I was so excited. It was awesome. I had a blast with this episode. It ends up being in the middle of the pack because there are just the better episodes, and then there are the clearly worse episodes. And we only have 9 of them to rank, so this one ends up at 6, 5, 4, somewhere in that territory. I had a ton of fun with it. I like Spider-Man a lot, so it was cool to see that guy, even though it wasn't Holland. And the whole Ant-Man head thing, Evil Vision, cool. Always fun to do with that guy. I thought there was something else I wanted to cover, but no. Line of the show for me, just solid fun.
Doug, what are your thoughts on what if zombies?
Can we get some more zombie Wanda? Because like I'm down for zombie Wanda. That was awesome. No, I think this episode gives you some of the most heart-wrenching scenes. Like the death of Hope is so like she like sacrificed herself for everybody, and you get really good comedic moments with Paul Rudd as Just Ahead. I'm like, yes, I will take more Scott Lang as Just Ahead. But I think it's not my favorite, obviously. But I think it's really good, especially for somebody that loved the comic of Marvel Zombies. Like this was like, yeah, okay, thank you for making this a what if, because like I actually enjoyed it thoroughly.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I really loved this episode as well. And this is one that, like, when it started, them framing it sort of after Infinity War, after Infinity War when Hulk smashed through Strange's thing, because when it sounds like this is supposed to be a zombie episode. There's a lot. Oh, I see what they're doing here, and it was a smart way to do it. And it's while there's nitpicks out there, is like, oh, how did Thanos almost complete the gauntlet and all that? It doesn't matter but none of that matters to me. It was a fun episode, and I don't know how they're going to do it, but I would love them to do a Funko Pop just of Scott Lang's head in a jar with the robe. I have no idea how they're doing that Funko Pop. I really want that Funko Pop. And I really hope we get a sequel episode or even its own series, because this is another one that I would have loved to be longer. And I don't. And I think the most scary thing about superhero zombies is the fact they've still got their powers. So, so having a giant Hope zombie chasing after you is not something you really want to see. But Aaron, what are your thoughts on what if zombies?
Oh, I'm glad it was all positive. This was honestly probably my least favorite episode of the show. I think it does have its moments, but the thing that took me out of it the most is I do agree with what Doug said. It has some brilliant dramatic moments, and it does have some brilliant comedic moments. But for me, just the way that it sat with me, it was very tonally inconsistent. It felt like on a whim we could jump back and forth from having a laugh to killing somebody we've had this emotional connection with for years because there's a zombie, and some of them just didn't hold the weight that I wanted it to. It felt like it was trying to go the dramatic route while also kind of mimicking Zombieland. And while I did think it did that well, and the spider rules thing, that was awesome. But the thing about Zombieland that works is, despite the fact that it's a horrific situation, they just give into the comedy completely. There was no element of that film where they ever try and make it really, truly dramatic. Whereas I think trying to do them at the same time made for a bit of a weird tonal thing at times. I will say something they somehow managed to do like 3 to 4 times in this show. Chadwick has a brilliant speech at the end. Seriously, some of the best voice acting in this show. But no, it has its moments, and I do really love, I know people in the comments, the Vision stuff. I do really love that, and I love the idea that like their love is so ingrained that like she did what she did for him in the main universe, but like if the roles were reversed, he'd do some very similarly fucked up things in an attempt to try and keep her alive as well. But it just didn't quite all come together for me the way that I wanted it to.
Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite moments was Happy Hope just running around going blam, 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 blam. But yeah, the next episode we have is, what if Killmonger rescued Tony Stark? And Doug, I'm going to start with you on this one.
Yeah. I like this episode, but like, I don't know. For me, I don't know what it was. There was something about the episode. The smartest man in the world gets played by a guy who's pretty good at strategy. Killmonger's never been like super, super intelligent. Like, he wasn't super intelligent. He was smart enough to get into Wakanda, I'll give him that. But like, you outsmarted one of the smartest men. Also, it's kind of really funny that Tony Stark never lives in any single universe ever. Like, ever. There's not a single universe that they're gonna ever let Tony Stark live. But
I mean, he lived in the episode we didn't see.
Big fact.
The irony of that.
No, but I think it's just, I don't know. There's just something about this episode that didn't sit with me well. Like, it's just like it's like everybody else was playing checkers and Killmonger was playing chess, but like Killmonger isn't up to that level of chess in my eyes. He got outsmarted by T'Challa. So you're gonna tell me that 3 of the smartest people in the universe got played by one character? There's something that doesn't sit right.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is I kind of had the same things with this episode. Like, this was I enjoyed this episode, and this was another one of weird recastings reversed, because Don Cheadle played what's his face, Rhodey.
Terrence Howard, not Terrence Howard.
Yeah, and just seeing it look like Don Cheadle's like, that's not how Rhodey looked back here. I kind of wish they would have actually at least animated Rhodey to look the way he would have done it in that time period, but I kind of get that they wanted it looked recognizable. I don't know, but anyway,
that being work done in 2009. Let me tell you.
But anyway, that being said, this was one of those ones that the change doesn't quite make a lot of sense, because why was Killmonger in Afghanistan in the first place? It was just this was one that was kind of a lot of coincidences that he happened to be there to save Tony. So it's just one of those ones that the actual change doesn't make sense, but the episode we got because of that change, I actually enjoyed. And it took me a long time to realize the time frame, but it's like, because I was looking at Shuri, it's like, Shuri doesn't look well. I was like, oh yeah, this is because at this time she would have been younger.
She'd be a little
anyway, Aaron, what were your thoughts on what if
Yeah.
Killmonger rescued?
So I agree with you that this is another one of the episodes where from the moment I heard the concept, my thought was like, man, how the fuck are they going to explain this one? What the hell was he doing in Afghanistan? And their way of explaining it was not explaining it. Like they kind of were just like, oh, he was there. He was how many years ahead of his plan for dominance and wanting to take over Wakanda in this universe. Like it just kind of worked out. Um, yeah, I do agree. This episode to me has some of the best highlights of the show. I think Michael B. Jordan's performance, both in this episode and the one he appears in later, I think he's really great as this character. In the live action films, I thought he, like, in terms of take the writing out of the character, just pure performance, I thought he was one of the best performances we've had in the MCU, and I thought he carried over here as well. I thought he did a really great job voicing the character. Um, the whole like him tricking Tony thing, I do agree with Doug. It is a little inconceivable at times. To me, like the light write off for that is like, well, this is still Tony, who's like kind of a party boy and kind of a drunk asshole. Like maybe he's not completely there in terms of how he's thinking clearly. Because, like, truthfully, the events of Iron Man and almost dying is what kind of woke him up a little bit to the what's going on. But yeah, this whole thing like just runs on conveniences and runs on you believing that Killmonger is and always is the smartest man in the room. But with that said, the fight sequence at the end where again somehow he's playing two whole nations at the same time, like it really is like, how is this working? The animation in that fight scene is some of the best animation in this entire show. It was an absolutely beautiful sequence. Them riding on the rhinos and riding through the bots and fighting them, everything about it was incredible. And for all you anime fans, Killmonger is one of you. You have one. There you go.
And just before I forget, one thing I actually found funny about actually, Jake, I'll go to you first, but I can't remember what I was actually going.
Yep.
So
yep.
I do want to go back quickly because Garth is putting it in the comments. I do realize that in the films they say he was there at the same time, but it's the arbitrary change of like, why in this universe was he so on the ball and there ahead of time, ready for the attack, already knowing that Obadiah Stane had betrayed him? Because like he would have had to know that ahead of time to know that all of this was going to go down. It's like the arbitrary reason of like, how did he know all this was going to happen to be here in this universe? But in this universe, he just wasn't quite as on the ball. Like again, it's all minor nitpicks at that point, but it is just very odd because they do even say in the episode, it's like, what were you doing 4,000 clicks away from your unit? And it's just kind of brushed away.
Yeah. But yeah, Jake, what were your thoughts about this episode?
For me, this episode is the most forgettable. Not the worst, but it just the way it kind of fell in the line of things, like ended up being just it's the one that I struggle to think of when I'm listing the episodes. It's still a great episode. I thought this whole show was great. Obviously, I've said that before. But sorry guys, I'm losing my train of thought here. The Shuri thing I was looking at Garth's chat, Kid, Shuri, and Pepper, who figured him out. I think Kevin Feige has mentioned that Shuri is like the smartest person in the MCU, but Kid Shuri maybe not so much. Maybe that doesn't actually apply. Anyway, still had fun with the episode. As you pointed out, the animation for the battle scene was great. Michael B. Jordan's voice acting, I think, is among the better translated actual acting. Voice acting is actual acting. But the live action to voice acting, I think Michael B. Jordan translates the best.
Yeah. Not all the actors did a great job.
Yeah. And then T'Challa also is great, even though we only get him for 2 seconds in this episode.
Yeah.
So those guys are among the best. But yeah, I enjoyed the episode. Just kind of, it's at the bottom. It's near the bottom for me in that 6-7 range.
But yeah, I mean, and I've remembered what I was going to say before. I just love that Tony's quick at going, oh yeah, you saved me, you must be a good person, and promotes him to the highest position in the company. So,
Again,
with-
Tony Stark being played as a fool is not sitting with me well.
It's like, well, the last guy I trusted blindly tried to kill me, but you seem all right.
Let's just make 2 wrongs and hope it becomes the right.
But with that being said, the next episode we got was What If Thor was a Party Boy? Well, that was the exact title of the episode, was What If Thor was an only child, but that's kind of what it ended up being.
Yeah,
I mean, he was always a party boy.
What if party?
He's not really an only child. He and Loki are still brothers from another mother, right?
I mean, technically, he still is technically related to Hela, but we won't go there.
But yeah, I mean, this is just a fun episode. Oh, it does unfortunately still sort of slide to the middle of the pack, just because I really did like some of the other ones a little bit more. But this was just a lot of fun with what we got, because just the whole party sequences of Thor sneaking out of his house just to go and have a party on Earth.
We're going to Midgard.
It's just the most random thing. I'm disappointed they didn't come to visit New Zealand, though, especially with Taika Waititi appearing in the episode for a little bit.
Yeah.
They went as far as Sydney.
They got Australia. I mean, they got Australia.
Yeah. I'm sure somebody drunkenly stumbled over.
Probably.
But it's just one of those ones. Like, this is just a lot of fun. It's just, if it was just say the small moments of Jane going to Asgard to tell Thor's mother that what Thor's doing, to the whole fight sequence of Captain Marvel and Thor fighting, and just and Thor just quickly go, look, Mum's coming, we've got to get this cleaned up. We can't make it look like it just having Surtur just randomly hitting on the Statue of Liberty. It was just I really love Clancy Brown doing that.
Yeah, this is Surtur.
But Aaron,
what was that line? Like, why don't you light up that torch? It's like, Jesus, dude, you're trying to get it on right now.
But Aaron, what are your thoughts on What If Thor was an only child?
Okay, so outside of, and again, if somebody understood this a little bit better than me, please correct me. But another arbitrary change of like, this time Odin just kind of left the kid behind and said fuck it, and so Thor's an only kid being raised like an only child. Like, I don't think there was really any, and they really brushed over that intro, by the way. They were just kind of like, let's get to the fun. But no, this honestly was one of my favorite episodes. This was the other one when I said it with episode 2. There are 2 episodes that are near the top. This one for me was because by this point we'd had episode 3, 4, 5, and 6 were all theoretically about some big thing that was just going to end the world. And one of the reasons that I love the Ant-Man films within the MCU is because both times where they came up in their running, it's right after multiple the world or the universe is going to end type of stories. And they're just like, nah, fuck it, let's have a heist film for fun. And this was that palate cleanser for me. This was just a fun episode. It's the closest the MCU is ever going to get to like Animal House style like movies or television. It's just a bunch of fun. I love all the cameos. I love Howard the Duck getting Vegas Church hitched to Kat Dennings with an Elvis priest. Like, that was brilliant. I love the idea. I love the little quick joke they made where like Rocket Raccoon might be dead in Thor's sink from alcohol poisoning.
Look at the
rabbit.
The callback was amazing.
It was incredible. I loved it. I love that their way of like writing Nick Fury out of this so they don't have to pay Sam Jackson again was just to have him get bulldozed by Korg. Like, everything about this was just so wholly entertaining. And like the idea that like the way that an Asgardian prince who has the power to bring a universe to this planet for a party would get caught is because his human one night stand found her way to Asgard to tell on him to his mother. It's so stupid, and I loved every second of it. This was one of the best. This is what I wanted more of when I thought of What If. Just these weird ass fun stories. Not everything has to be about the world or the universe ending. Let's just have a party. And I also think that Chris Hemsworth is part of the reason he really sells this. I really do think he's been an unfortunate victim of bad casting because he has been the best part of some terrible comedies, and he really does have the potential to do really well in a movie where he can excel. And ever since they've taken Thor down that more comedic route, I thought his performances have gotten better and better. And this was one of the best. Like, just he really, now I want to see him in a movie like this in real life. Just an all out, like, if Vacation was good type of thing. Like, let's just put him in one of these movies and just have some fun with it.
I mean, I think it just sort of stems around like Taika sort of bringing out all this comedy out of Chris from Ragnarok, and I think that's just what kept it carrying over. I
and
know
like,
there's a lot of.
I've been completely open. Like, I personally didn't love Ragnarok as a film, but the influence that Taika has had on the direction of the Thor character has been magnificent. And even though I didn't love Thor 3, the advancement of Taika as a director with JoJo and what they've done with Thor since still makes me excited for Thor 4. Like, it really does. I'm really looking forward to it.
But Jake, what were your thoughts on What If Thor was an only child?
Yep, this is one of my favorites. I'm the fun guy, and like as much as I enjoyed that seriousness, you're good, Ski. So as much as I enjoyed the seriousness of like the Doctor Strange episode and whatnot, I'm here for the fun time. This is my favorite part of the whole series. Is I want to have fun with these characters, and you can just hear how much fun Chris Hemsworth is having in this episode. Like I was talking about Michael B. Jordan earlier, and how he's one of the best translated actors. Thor is right below there, I think. And you can just hear him having fun and have at you. And the tattoos, hilarious. The whole like Ferris Bueller, don't tell mom the babysitter's dead. We gotta clean up.
I love that reference.
When he fixes the leaning
Tower of Pisa. Oh my god.
Just yeah, the brother from another thing, and Loki. We get to see Frost trying Loki. He gives him the pinky. It's awesome. Howard the dog. Blast, as previously mentioned. God, this episode was just so fun, and I just want to have one in the MCU and not tragic backstories and stuff like that. So that's why this and Star-Lord T'Challa are among my favorites, because it's almost all happiness.
And Doug, what were your thoughts on What If Thor was an only child?
Can we just talk about how this was the best chemistry that Jane Foster and Thor had in any of the other movies? This was the best chemistry they had. This was incredible. This was a really good episode. This is probably like my 4. I really liked it. I think it was just a lot of fun. It was a great palate cleanser for what comes next. And I think it's really showing, it really shows how good of an actual comedic actor Chris Hemsworth is. That he can do it with just his voice and you still get that feel like he played the role. I just really enjoy the whole aspect of the episode, because it just so for like Aaron did mention that the beginning didn't make sense, but I think it did. I think it showed what if Odin realizes that he was wrong. Because we don't know much about Odin, where he is. So maybe he realizes maybe he needs to do things more peacefully. And that's why we get the what if that we get.
Yeah, and I think if I remember rightly, in the Loki series, in one of the variant Lokis, we did actually see the Frost Giant Loki I could be wrong. Someone will probably correct me, but I'm pretty sure there was a shot of a Loki that was clearly a frost giant when we were going through the variants. But the next and I think the reason that they specifically chose for at this point was to sort of pay tribute to the MCU because at the end of this episode we then see Ultron with the Infinity Stones sort of come into the universe, leading into the next episode, and it's and just like what Ragnarok did, at the end of Ragnarok we got the hint of Thanos coming in, which led into Infinity War and all that. But with that being said, the next episode we are going to talk about is what if Ultron had won. And I'm going to go to Jake first. Jake, what are your thoughts on what if Ultron had won?
Yeah, here's another episode that is good, but ends up in the middle just as a result of not being as good or as bad. Like I said, had the whole thing awesome. But yeah, definitely the animation was cool. Clint and Natasha, awesome. The whole the really good. That a lot. Beyond that, this is kind of an episode that is more important towards episode 9. Like 8 and 9 are almost a two-parter, really. Now that I think about it.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, I mean that's the way I like to see these ones because because the way I said, episode 8 was the Infinity War, which was the set up. Then episode 9 was the end game of it all, so to speak. But Doug, what were your thoughts on what if Ultron had won?
This is my number 2. I love this episode. I think this episode was great. I think it shows you the human willpower between these two characters, and the basic human nature that even though Clint has lost everything, he's still fighting for the possibility. Natasha lost everything and she's still fighting. And I think it shows how, if Ultron was not in check, how devastating it would have been and how powerful he would have become. When he cuts Thanos in half, and it's just like, so that happened. It leaves you kind of gasping, like, where is this gonna end? And then he finds his way into the into the multiverse, and it's like, yeah, it's about to go down.
Yeah, Thanos was just balanced as everything should be.
Straight in the middle.
I never even thought of that. That's great.
I mean, neither did I until I read it like, oh yeah, that is. But and I mean, even though it's still proved that Tony was wrong for creating Ultron in the first place, it proved that if Ultron was programmed correctly and not a psycho robot, that's all you needed. You just needed Ultron to take down Thanos, and it would have been done. But yeah, I mean, this episode was like, I enjoyed this episode. This was fun. And just to see the fight scene between Ultron and the Watcher just going through different realities. I really hope next season we see the episode where Steve becomes president. Because that's one of the ones that didn't really get a lot in this. There really wasn't a lot of Steve as Captain America at all in What If. Like, you see bits and pieces of Steve in the first episode, but then you don't really see much from anywhere else apart from just a few quick shots in the next episode we're going to talk about, and the other one.
Do you think President Steve was running against President Loki?
That's hilarious.
I mean, depending on which reality that was, maybe. But yeah, I mean, this is one thing with Ultron being this whole big giant ball in the sky. I couldn't help but think about Star Wars because it definitely was a whole Darth Vader-esque. But yeah, this is just one of those ones that it was a lot of fun. Him planet hopping, just to see quick glimpse, especially seeing the Guardians fighting whatever the thing how they were fighting in Volume 2 quickly, and just going through all these planets. It was a lot of fun. And yeah, Aaron stepped away for a little bit, so he'll probably be back at some stage. But with that, we'll move on to the next one, and which was, what if the Watcher broke his oath? But Doug, what are your thoughts on the finale?
This is showing you exactly what's going to happen when the big bad for Avenger 5 comes. Owatu's going to get involved. Or it's going to show you what he's going to do when Galactus comes. Because this shows you that Owatu will break his vow. This is the big thing that they needed to do, because we're gonna get him in the universe. He'll be in the universe, and I'm so excited for Jeffrey Wright to be in the MCU as Owatu. I think it'll be so cool. I think this episode overall shows you what's going to happen in the future when they're fighting Kang. I think it's going to show you what they're going to need to do to defeat Kang. And I don't think it was a bad episode. It's probably my favorite episode because of how it showed that everything's going to tie together. No matter what we may get or what might happen, the MCU is a storyline through and through, and it will continue to be that. So, you're muted, Malcolm.
I have no idea what's going. Can you hear me?
Can hear you. We can hear you.
But yeah, this is just one of those episodes in which it was a lot of fun. And I mean, no shocker, Killmonger betrays the team. I never saw that coming.
Why?
But this is one of those shows that that I'd love to see this. This is one of those episodes that I'd love to see a spin-off just called Guardians of the Multiverse or whatever they want to call it. Because I think this could work as a show on its own, where it's similar to the Legends of Tomorrow, where you've plugged a whole bunch of heroes from different timelines to travel the multiverse and solve multiverse hopping villain. And that could be a lot of interesting. Whether or not it does spin off into its own show, I don't know. But it's just one of those. It's just one of those that I think there's a lot of possibilities for spin-off shows to maybe come out of What If. But yeah, Jake, what were your thoughts on the finale?
Yeah, it was an excellent cap off to the thing. I think it brought like the best of the voice actors, as I have previously mentioned, Chadwick and Michael B. Jordan and Thor, Chris Hemsworth, that guy. Those were some of the better performances, so it was cool to get to see them again. Like I said, 8 and 9 were the only fully cohesive episodes. So yeah, it was just fantastic. Great series. The Yeah, I had a good time with it. I'm sorry, I'm out of plans. Oh yeah,
No.
also Garth. What Garth said, that's what I was gonna say. Watcher planned it all along. So did he really break his oath? Aha.
Yeah.
Mystery.
But yeah, I mean, one of my favorite moments in this episode though was when the Watcher was trying to get Four's attention. It's like, Four, you've been just like, fuck, I'm just gonna
I bet
hit
you. I bet you too.
so, but yeah, I can't wait to next season where we actually finally get to see that episode we were supposed to see this season of Tony Stark on Sakaar. Because we got a tease here and just when the Watchers go to these like and getting Gamora, it's like, Gamora, you've been chosen. Like, right, I'm ready to fight. It's like, not you, Stark.
Yeah. I was gonna say that's the one universe in which Tony did not die, and it was just like, not you, Stark. It was almost like they were setting up that joke. Like, hey, Tony gets to live, but he does not fucking matter. Sorry.
But
yeah.
But I'm pretty much convinced that in season 2, also you're going to find out more about the post-credit scene of this too. We're going to get the Winter Soldier, like Captain Carter's Winter Soldier, which is, so I'm pretty sure it's going to end up being Steve Rogers in the Hydra Stomper, and it's going to be controlled by Hydra.
Yeah, I think it's Winter Soldier, Steve. I'm with you.
But that being said, it doesn't bother me if that is what we're going to get, because they're going to find a way to make it somewhat different once again. But yeah, Aaron, what were your thoughts on the two-part, last two, the 8 and 9?
Yeah. I honestly thought they were both fine. 8 was interesting only because I've always thought one of the more interesting dynamics in the MCU was Hawkeye and Black Widow, because they're kind of always the two where it's like, these are the two that are so underpowered compared to the rest at all times, and they're very well aware of it, and they're like, they have that jokey kind of rhythm with each other. I do want to compliment, I believe it was Lake Bell who did the voice of Black Widow throughout the entire series. Yeah. I thought she did do a really great job. It wasn't like a perfect impression of Scarlett Johansson, but I thought she just did a good job with the role, and I thought the character was always entertaining. It was like, the voice wasn't perfect, but it never felt like a different character, whereas I felt like some of the others, I didn't think they ever quite completely nailed it. So she did do a really great job, and so I thought their chemistry was great. I thought the idea of like, oh yeah, there's that Zolan guy, he's in a computer, let's use him to try and take out Ultron. Like, when you're desperate and out of options, that's what you turn towards. You just go for the first thing you can think of at that point. And I really did like it. Again, if I'm complimenting voice actors that did a good job taking over, Ross Marquand stepping in for James Spader, I also thought he did a very good job. Again, not a perfect Spader impression, but kind of like what he already did with Red Skull in the films. It's taking the character, having enough of the old performance that it's clearly the same character and the same version of the character, while still kind of putting your own thing on it. And yeah, I liked part 8 perfectly fine. 9, to me, I didn't love it as a finale. Personally, I thought it was more style over substance for me. There wasn't really a lot to the episode in terms of story. It was, we're going to take a hero from each of these stories and make them save the world. But there was a lot of just weird things done with the story. Like, I get that Killmonger was the lead of an episode, but the moment you pull Killmonger to be a hero to save the universe, it's like, cool. So there's where our third act twist comes from. Like, that's just fucking obvious. And you know, I thought they all had good chemistry with each other. I did notice it was a group of Avengers who don't ever really interact in the films. Like, there was a mix of people who never really got to interact in the films, and I thought that really worked. and I also do think a good bit of the episode, and it is hurt because the episode got pushed for COVID related reasons, production wise. But Gamora being such a huge part of the actual integral story, and us not really knowing anything about this version of the character or having any sort of real introduction to her, I do think hurts the episode. I really do, because for a large portion of it, the plot entirely falls back on somebody who is the one character in a greatest hits you weren't introduced to. It almost feels like maybe they should have delayed the episode, like just done 8 episodes and saved this until you could have. But yeah, it's unfortunate. I do think the action scenes were really well done. Like, it did look really good. And as I said, like, Chris Hemsworth was great once again. Chadwick Boseman was great once again. Some really good voice acting in that last episode, but it didn't really do it for me. It was the culmination of a season where I was very up and down the whole time, and so naturally the episode was kind of up and down the whole time.
Yeah. I mean, and it's one of those ones, especially on that Gamora one. Like, I think even if they delayed this episode, I think most people probably would have not been that happy with it, with ending on the way it ended on episode 8 either. I think it's just one of those ones. I think, and it could be when we finally see the episode in season 2, because I think they've pretty much confirmed that's when we'll see it. Yeah, it could turn out that in that episode, Gamora doesn't actually play as big of a part as we think, because I believe the episode is more about what if Tony Stark ended up on Sakaar. So I think it's more primarily Tony Stark.
And this isn't confirmed, but from the reports that I've read on it, it's the change in this episode is, I believe it's when Tony sends the nuke through the wormhole in Avengers, he never actually makes it back to Earth. He's stuck out in space.
Yeah, I think it. Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's either that one, or it's when he goes into space in Infinity War. I think it could work with either of those.
Potentially.
Yeah,
potentially. So, yeah, I could see it both ways.
Those are the only 2 times that he's ever in space for this to work. And something that I actually completely forgotten never happened, but that was the first time Tony Stark and Gamora ever interacted at all, because they never interacted during the movies.
No, because she was already dead by the time he met the Guardians. So,
well, and they never interacted like with past Gamora either. So,
yeah. Even in Endgame, like, it's not like we had a Tony Gamora moment. That would have felt out of place in that battle, right? That first moment.
But yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's intriguing to see where they go, because I think what they've said is this episode essentially was to tie up some of the threads from these episodes. Was like, because as I said, I'm pretty sure next season we are going to get another Captain Carter episode. Because I'm pretty sure they've said that enough.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's probably going to be tied around the post-credit scene that we got in this, with her saying potentially Winter Soldier Steve using the Hydra Stomper.
Yeah.
But and it's well, and I mean, how much of a dick would the Watcher have been if he sent Natasha back to the universe she came from, where there's no one else there for her to talk to, just sitting in the middle of this destroyed New York?
Yeah, that would have been the ultimate see, I honestly wouldn't have liked it, because and I do think, though I liked the scene where she like kind of confronts him over that, and it's like, I'm not going back. Like, I'm not doing that. It did almost feel a little fourth wall-y, where it's like she's looking to the guy whose job is to watch them, and it's like, we're just stories to you. Did you get a bucket of popcorn while my world was ending? And it's like, no, you mean so much more to me, which, like, it is true for some people. These movies and to go deeper, a love of comics do mean so much to so many people, that it was like, man, this is the most Deadpool the show's ever gotten. What is happening right now?
Yeah, and I mean, it's one of those ones. I do like the fact that that he essentially used his powers like Well, you can go to this one because there's no Natasha there anymore. So, and the one thing that did bother me is the fact that Nick Fury instantly knows that's not his Natasha.
Yeah.
It's like, you're not my Natasha, are you?
Well, to be fair, he's gone through weirder by that point. I'm sure it's just like, oh, there's another Natasha. Yeah, all right. You seem like you're on my side, so I'll take it for now.
But I mean, but the fact is, Black Widow got to get revenge on Loki by just punching him out. Which is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But
no, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, no, I was gonna say I do agree with you that we'll get that we're definitely most likely getting a Captain Carter thing in season 2. And we know obviously we're gonna get the Gamora episode. That'll be another 2 episodes. The reports that I've read are saying that apparently, despite the fact that they were initially given, it was like they were given like a 20 or 25 episode season order. Apparently, like total, and I guess they could have split it up however they chose to. Apparently, next season, whenever it airs, they're only going to do 9 again. I guess they've decided they want to stick to the 9 episode format. So we already know what 2 of those are going to be, and I believe when they talked about using Phase 4 movies, they were going to be allowed to use Phase 4 movies with season 2. This one they specifically referenced was Shang-Chi. So I'm going to assume he's also going to be an episode. So with potentially 3 of the episodes already kind of told to us like what we're going to get, do you guys think they're going to go back to any of the stories from season 1 a second time, or is it going to be the rest are all new stories?
Well, no, I think it's one of those ones because in the various stories, interviews I've read, I think they said that a lot of the finale was used to sort of put a cap on a lot of these universes we've already visited. Obviously, with the exception of Captain Carter, because I think they've confirmed that she's going on. Because the other one that they did talk about when talking about Phase 4 movies was Black Widow as well.
Oh, really? Okay.
But I mean, but once again, it's going to be interesting to see how they use them because they might find a way to do like what they did with Earth's Mightiest Heroes ones. If they find a way to merge a couple of movies into one episode, they might be able to do that with some of them too. But yeah. Doug, what are your thoughts on any of these rules might be revisited later?
I think they might revisit the Natasha one just because we'll see how she fits in, maybe. But other than that, I think the Captain Carter's probably the only one that they're gonna pull from that. I think they're gonna pull a lot of like what if Shang-Chi actually just took over for his father instead? How deadly would it be?
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to say, what if the Eternals actually involve themselves? I could see that happening.
Yeah, there's probably a couple cool ones with the Eternals, depending on what the movie gives you as like string offs. There's probably a few ways you could go with an episode for them. Because I mean, isn't the whole thing they've been on Earth this whole time? There's like an infinite number of possibilities you could do.
The messed up part is that like the whole trailer is that we only get involved when there's deviants. But for those that know, Thanos is a deviant.
But, yeah, I mean,
is that true?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I'm pretty sure Garth will correct me if he's still in the comments, but I think Thanos is related to Angelina Jolie's character. I think is the one that in the comics they're related somehow. So I know one of the Eternals is related to Thanos. I know that much.
Oh, okay.
But I'm pretty sure they're going to. I'm pretty sure they have some.
Thanos is her cousin.
Yeah. But I'm pretty sure they've actually said that they're going to sort of touch on in the movie why they didn't intervene with when Thanos obliterated the universe.
Fun fact: we're already getting a what if in live action, and that's called Spider-Man: No Way Home.
and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
What if Doctor
If the
Strange?
rumors around that film are even half true, where it's like we're getting the cast of Loki, and we're getting Wanda's kids, and we're getting a frickin' this, that, and the other. Was
He's gonna
Captain
play
Carter was
Thor.
rumored at one point? Like,
What if Doctor Strange was Mephisto in disguise?
Yikes.
Jake, is there any sort of what if kind of stories you'd like to see happen in season 2 and maybe season 3 if they can go that far?
I think we'll see some of the characters again. I mean, obviously, we cannot not see those characters at some point. But as far as visiting the worlds go, I think it'll mainly be the Peggy Carter one, obviously. Definitely want to spend more time with Party Thor if possible. 1602 would be interesting for me. I don't know if you're familiar with Marvel's 1602, but it is about Marvel taking place in the year 1602. So I think that would be cool to see on the screen. And yeah, like zombies, I was excited for, and that happened. So yeah, I think 1602 would be the one that I would want that doesn't seem to have been discussed a lot.
Yeah, I mean, 1602 is definitely a fun story that I've read. Whether or not they'll get into a what if episode, because I don't know how they could do that. But if they ever do a movie of 1602, I'd love to see that.
I was gonna say, I just remembered we're technically getting a third what if movie because I think it was Guardians 3. They talked about apparently part of James Gunn's plot was an idea that they also coincidentally pitched for what if, and they were told to strike it from the record because Gunn already pitched it for the real movie, which just makes me think, what the fuck could that possibly be?
Bonkers.
Oh yeah, I mean it's one of those ones. Until I actually read that the Gamora episode was moved due to COVID-related reasons. I initially thought that that's why they were moving was because that was the
Maybe.
one that the plot was just. But yeah, I mean they have said that it was because of COVID-related reasons and animation houses and stuff closing down for something. But that is going to sort of wrap it up here. And there really isn't a lot of other things that have come out in interviews which is worth talking about related to What If. So I'm going to go around the board to see where we can find people. Aaron, where can people find you online?
Well, before I go, because obviously the people who create What If are clearly watching this show right now. If I could offer one piece of advice, I would say add to your guys' writing team. The entire show was written by two people, AC Bradley and Matthew Chauncey, and I think that might have hurt them a little bit because the whole idea is you're supposed to be creating an entirely different universe, and so when you have two people that literally, I think it was split 4 and 4, and then they co-wrote an episode together. So when you're responsible for handling 4 episodes on your own of a world that's supposed to be this expansive, I think that does lead to where some of the ideas were a little limited at times, where they could have either made a little more sense or gone a little further with it. It's because they were so responsible. I think a show like this would really flourish if you had 6 or 7 writers and said everybody gets a script or 2 scripts at the most, and just go flesh out this world as much as possible. I think it would really excel if they took that approach to it. But with that said, thank you guys for having me on. This has been a lot of fun to talk about it, even though I was probably the most negative person here out of you guys. It's still fun. It's still Marvel. There's still stuff to enjoy. Like I would still contend, even with this being one of my least favorite projects they've done, they still haven't made a bad project yet because there's still some great stuff in this. You guys can find everything that I do over on the channel TMG Entertainment. Currently, the main thing that we're putting together is Movie Battleground, which is our debate show. Both Malcolm and Jake are active competitors in that. Malcolm just had a match go up very, very recently, and Jake's second match will be up very, very soon. So be sure to go check those out and subscribe. And thank you once again for having me on. I'd love to be back anytime you'll have me.
And Jake, where can people find you online?
As Aaron mentioned, you'll be able to find me in the near future over there on Movie Battleground. Check out the Tato 24-hour challenge. 2 full days Jake, I want this match, and I write it as soon as possible, and we get it done as soon as possible. So find that on Facebook or on YouTube. Thank you for also join whenever you'll have me back.
And Doug, where can people find you online?
That's a good question. I pop in here and there. I may have a show coming back relatively soon now that I'm in my own place. See, things are set up. I'm moving into a place. Jumping back into trivia might be a little bit fun. Also, you can check out my TikTok, Doug Castle 6.
And you can find me on Tape for Productions. As always, I host Bankum on Saturday. We're continuing down talking about horror, and we're moving into the decade of the 2000s next week. And we do have page from the Schmodown on there as well. And next week for late night, I don't know if I'm doing one next week. I've announced one before and then just not done it. So I'm not going to announce it. Oh, if there's one happening next week, there'll be one happening next week. That's the way it goes. Over on Full Metal, I host Full Metal Classic on Sundays, and Full Metal Random is going to be tomorrow this week. And it's going to be a Tarantino match with Steve Mesa taking on Antonio Chavez and Mark Meyer.
It's been a while.
But until next time, that is the end of the show, and I'm just going to go and
Just
get
give me
some.
all the bacon and eggs you have.